Morning, everyone. Here's another episode of Three Uniques. I'm Brenda, and I'm pleased to introduce you to Ken Sim. Hi, Ken.
Hey, Brenda, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome.
Awesome. So Ken, just so everyone knows, he is the co-founder of Nurse Next Door and Rosemary Rocksalt, two businesses that started up in Vancouver, Canada. And in 2018, fun fact, he ran for mayor in the Vancouver Municipal Election and fell short by 957 votes. Ouch.
Well, it could have been worse.
Could have been worse, I guess.
I,
Yeah.
I, I, I could have missed it by 50,000 votes. That would have been terrible. So,
Yeah, but
yeah.
957 votes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
he
you
was
know
a
what?
winner.
It was actually the closest election result in Vancouver history. It was decided by less than 0.6 of 1%.
So as an entrepreneur, what drove you to run for mayor?
Well, I think it was my upbringing. I grew up in Vancouver. I've started my career in Vancouver. We started our companies in Vancouver, raised a family in Vancouver. All my family and friends are, for the most part, in Vancouver. And the city was taking a turn for the worst. And so, it was worth fighting for. And it was a passion project. It's something that's deeply personal to me. And so it made running for mayor incredibly easy.
And what were some of the learnings like going through that process?
You know what? It was, on the positive side, it was great just meeting so many people in the city. I thought I knew a lot of people in the city. I met over 10,000 people in the city during the
Wow.
election, from every single corner. And I have a lot of hope for the city. On the flip side, politics is kind of it's a dirty game, and when you're in business or you carry about your life and you don't play in those places, it was interesting to see, that's for sure.
Yeah, as a business owner, you're held to a higher standard as far as integrity with your people, like your people, your employees, your customers. And so did you come across that? Like just some, those boundaries, those like fringe areas of where like, things were just not great from an integrity standpoint?
For sure. I don't want to throw the whole city under the
Yeah,
bus.
no,
Very far from. There's so many amazing people, and they far outnumbered the people that were kind of goofy. And I'm not talking about people that had a different sort of political perspective than I did. That's the great thing about living in Vancouver and Canada. You can actually celebrate that. It was more, there were some players out there that were really sleazy and would stab you in the back and throw you under the bus and make stuff up about you. And, um, you know, a bunch of other things I don't even want to mention, in a video recording, but it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. And at the same time, it was life-changing, and it was such an experience. And it was an adventure, and I wouldn't trade it in for anything.
amazing. And now, so I've known you for a while and I'm excited because this morning you're going to share your three uniques with us. So
Okay.
how about them?
My three uniques. One, I think I have a really good grasp on numbers. Two, I'm a connector. I think I can put myself in the perspective, hold the perspectives of a lot of different people just because of my varied background and my upbringing. And then three, I always have a positive attitude. And, despite what's going on, I can always see the good in things.
Amazing. So let's go back up to the top. So I agree, you're good with numbers. So tell us why.
I think part of it, I was just born with it. I love numbers. I always have, but also my training, my upbringing. So I went to business school and I became a chartered accountant, or an FCPA now. I did time in investment banking, private equity, and then running our companies. It's one of those things that sort of jumps out to me, and I can see numbers like literally dance in front of me. They just make a lot of sense.
Amazing. And then number two?
Being a connector or having a network, yeah. Once again, it comes with my upbringing. I was the son of immigrants, and so we didn't have a lot of money. I went to 5 elements in 7 years, not because we're flipping real estate. It was because we had a hard time making rent and finding a place to live. And I was always the new kid. And being the new kid in the school, you always had to make new friends. You struggle. It was hard at the beginning, but you get used to it. Also, from my socioeconomic upbringing, you know um, can relate with people that don't have a lot of money. And then as I traveled through my career, you know, running into, captains of industry, if that's what you want to call it, and professionals and, wealthy individuals and political figures. And so I can literally get along with pretty much anyone out there.
I remember the first time I met you up at the Rosemary Rocksalt on Main Street, bought me lunch at Noodle Box next door. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you were just really sincere, asking me about like who I was, like my family background, not from a like, oh, let's, pigeonhole her into some diversity group, but it was more about, wanting to get to know me as a person, not just the work side of things. So I really appreciated about that, like the first time I met you.
And just to add some color on that, yeah, I find people actually fascinating, out there in the public, either in the political spectrum or, when you're just meeting people for the first time, or when you work with people do get pigeonholed, and people have, when you actually ask the question, they have fascinating stories. And that's what excites me about actually meeting people, learning about their stories.
Awesome. And then your third unique.
My third unique, always taking in a positive sort of perspective. Yeah, look, it's hard to say this right now because we are going through a global pandemic. And I want to be, very respectful to all the people that are, either suffering, they've lost a loved one, they're sick, they've lost their jobs, lost their homes. That is absolutely brutal. So I don't want to be disrespectful there. And at the same time, we can see the beauty in what our journey right now. We live in this amazing country, mm-hmm. where we have a great medical system. We have food on the table, and I know some people are suffering from food insecurity right now, but we have all these places where we have food banks and the Hare Krishna temples and what have you. Things can always be a lot worse. You go to other countries, they could be worse. This time in our, in the space-time continuum of being a human being, despite all our challenges, it's the best time to, be alive as a human. You wouldn't pick any other time. Right now, no one in my family is incredibly ill. And I know at some point, you just play the law of large numbers, someone will get seriously ill. So I'm celebrating the fact that right now, no one in my family is ill. So I can always take a different perspective and look at the bright side of things. Even when you get punched in the face, so to speak, politically, or your businesses are suffering, I just chalk it up to that's part of the journey. That's part of a learning experience, and what good can we take out of it? And so I pretty much always have a positive attitude about life in general.
And I think that ties back into your second unique about being a connector. People always, like when they talk about you to me, not that we're talking about you behind your back, but it's more about like, oh, Ken, and always so like happy and, always got a smile on his face, always like sort of genuinely caring about the people that he meets. So that's the connector piece. And then I think that's that positivity, like you're going to spread it, right? And probably by connecting with people too, it's like you pull yourself out of, if you are in a rut about something, it's like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to genuinely talk to some good natured people and they're going to help me out. So
absolutely. Great.
That's awesome. So Ken, just a couple other questions. Why are you worth knowing?
Why am I worth knowing? Depends on who you talk to. Some people will just say, yeah, no, keep moving along. That's a great question. I think I have a pretty varied journey. I can relate to a lot of people, and I have a lot to share. And I learned this from a mentor of mine, a guy by the name of Milton Wong, and just giving back. We've been fortunate to be where we're at. I wouldn't have the ability to vote or own my current home if it wasn't for the people that came before me and, fought for what's right and gave back to the community. And I do believe that we have a responsibility to give back, whatever that is, sharing experiences, connecting someone with someone else, or, making our earth, a healthier place environmentally. There's so many things that we can do as individuals that contribute to, our success as human beings and as a community. And so I think from that perspective, everyone's worth knowing because everyone has a story. And I'm just another person in that journey.
Awesome. And my last question for you is, knowing that you've started up 2 businesses and seen successes and potentially maybe some, some dips or some turning points that haven't always led to successes. That's part of being an entrepreneur or a leader in a business. What would you say is your kind of approach to failure? Like when, something that you really put your heart and soul into and it didn't surmount into some type of success as far as a dollar number or whatever you projected, and it was considered a failure. How did you approach that, or how do you generally approach failure?
Well, it's easy to say this, and, when you're caught up in it, yeah, there are lots of times I feel that I've failed. At the end of the day, though, I don't believe in failure. I know I just contradicted myself, but really, there's no failure. They're just all learning experiences. So you could look at the last election. I failed. I came in second place. And in politics, second place is just the first place loser. So did I fail? No, I learned a ton.
Yeah.
And learned a ton that's going to set us up really nicely for the next election, which is, in 2022. And regardless if I become an elected official after that election, I already won. I met over 10,000 people in this city. And then after the election, I met another 6,000 people, and the number continues to grow. And I've learned so much about all the different communities in our city in general. So that's a win. I didn't fail. Right. It was an amazing journey. And I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. And, I'm richer for that experience. And the same thing happens when it comes to relationships or business. As a parent, as a spouse, there are lots of ups and downs. But that's part of the journey. And that's what makes us stronger. You don't learn during the good times. Let's put it that way. If everything always goes right, you're probably not learning anything. And I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, it was great. I think I like asking that question to people that I interview because everyone has sort of a different take on it. But generally, the people that I speak to that, show up to want to do a 3 Uniques interview have a really good attitude towards failure and almost like lean into it more, right? Like that whole adage of fail fast and, extract the learnings from it and then move on and take on the next thing. And I think that's always something I've admired about you is that you've put yourself out there, and then if it doesn't necessarily go the way you want, it's like, okay, it's like, it goes back to your 3 Uniques about positivity. It's like, get back up, go out there again.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Ken, thanks so much for being on today. I really appreciate getting to know your 3 Uniques and sharing them with everybody.
Awesome. And, thank you for having me. And it was great seeing you again, Brenda.
Yeah, always. Thanks. Take care.
Awesome. You too.